one last thing for you today, because we've talked a lot about strains, right, and different things.
My favorite question.
Yes. So we told you we'd be asking you a question, yes, and that's if you were could be one of your strains, the one you identify most with, I guess. Which one would you be?
Cherry Diesel.
Ooh.
No.
Because I'm a little bit sweet and not always sweet.
A little bit sour, too.
Welcome to Healing Hearts, a podcast created by the Healing Center, voted Pittsburgh's best dispensary.
Looking back at our first season of the Healing Hearts podcast, my name's Mike Flick. I'm your host, and we had quite a few guests, and we had a lot of fun recording this first season. Whenever a guest came in, we asked them a few different questions pretty consistently, one of them being about their cannabis coming out stories. I know, at least for me, it wasn't completely cut and dry to those around me, those in my life when I transitioned into this industry, and it took a moment or two for them to come around. There's still those who need some convincing, but after we tell them all the good that we're able to do, all the people we're able to help, they usually almost definitely come around. And there are those lucky few that just don't have a story because their family was ready to accept cannabis in their lives. But I've definitely got one myself. We're going to hear some of those from our own medical professionals as well, right here on this recap edition of the Healing Hearts podcast. And for our last segment, I think we should talk about kind of our cannabis coming out stories. I came from radio, and I know when I called my mom one day and I said, "Mom, I got a job at a medical marijuana dispensary," the first thing she asked me was, "What does Gina think?" my pharmacist girlfriend. And I said, she didn't know this at the time. I said, "Mom, Gina's already signed up. She signed up before I did. She's going to be working there part-time." She said, "Oh." And then we got off the phone, and then we didn't catch up for about a week. She called me the following week, and at some point in that week, she watched the CNN special that I think Fareed Zakaria did.
Or Sanjay.
Was it Sanjay
Gupta?
Was it Sanjay Gupta did it on CNN? She saw that, and all of a sudden, as soon as Sanjay said it, everything was okay. And she was she was very excited for me to have a new occupation after Sanjay Gupta signed off on it. So what was your kind of your cannabis coming out story?
Well, I've actually had a mixture of responses. My parents were happy that I was doing something that really interested me. My former coworkers thought I was a little crazy that I was leaving my old job to pursue something that was so, uncertain and unknown. And then I had actually one response from my friend was, well, that's the future of medicine.
Really?
So that really
it's surprisingly positive.
Yeah. That really, made me feel good and very positive.
Nobody was giving you the.
No one really was too negative, which was good. And it really now, as you can see, it really paid off, and I'm glad that I, made that transition.
Yeah, it kind of worked out for you.
Yeah.
Mike, you have a cannabis coming out story.
Well, the main thing that sticks out for me is Chris Cohan called me one evening. It was about 7:00. My little boy was 5 at the time, and made me the offer for lead pharmacist, general manager for their company, the Healing Center. My wife was on board, of course. She knew I was looking for it. So immediately she calls her mom and says, that I got the job. And my little boy was in the background, and he's yelling into the phone, Grandma, Daddy got the weed job." And everybody was really happy about it. Now, the only person I was really concerned about was my father.
Really?
Ultra conservative family.
Okay.
I'm a farm boy from Greene County. So I told my dad the next morning, I said, "Hey, I got a job." "Yeah." I said, "It's for a medical marijuana dispensary group in Pittsburgh." He didn't look at me. He said, "Well, is it legal?" I said, "Yes, Dad, it's legal." "Well, all right then." So
was there?
I was in the clear.
Did you get more of an opinion beyond that?
He waited to see. He's sold now.
Oh, okay. He's on board now.
Oh yeah. He understands now.
It's hard making that transition, though. I mean, we even see it with patients sometimes.
One of the things I tell all patients, not all patients, but most, is, especially people that don't have any experience, is I give them this line. Everything you ever learned in your life about marijuana was wrong.
Yeah.
If we think of all of recorded human history, every society, every group of people that's come across this plant have viewed it as medicine, used it as medicine until 1933. All of a sudden, it's heroin.
Right.
It's less than 100 years, and collectively, as a society, we have come full circle.
Couple of those cannabis coming out stories. A lot of us have them so far, and maybe you even have your own as a patient. But we're going to get more of those coming up on the Healing Hearts podcast next.
This is Jay Richards.
Hi, this is Chris Cohan.
Hi, this is Mike Flick.
Thank you again so much for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Healing Hearts podcast.
Not everybody is ready to accept the fact that we've made the transition into the cannabis industry, but couldn't be happier to do it because every day we get to come in here, we get to help people manage their pain or manage whatever their condition may be. And it's incredibly fulfilling for all of us. However, when we first tell our loved ones that this brand new, somewhat unexplored field is where we're taking our careers next, they weren't completely ready for it. So we've got more of our medical professionals from our own in-house team, and they're going to share some of those stories right now on the Healing Hearts podcast.
And, we had to come into the Healing Center at some point, right? We talked about this on the last episode with Jill, Allie, Jen. I know I had an awkward moment with my mother on the phone until she watched a CNN special about cannabis, and she was totally on board. But was there a moment when you told your parents, your family that you worked all these years, pharmacy school is not easy at all. And you go through all this and then you go, Mom, Dad, I'm going to go sell medical marijuana now. How was that moment for you guys?
There's definitely a little bit of hesitation in the beginning.
What happened
the unknown.
When you went and told them?
They were still supportive. Yeah, they still kind of are, but they were a little uncomfortable with the subject. A little bit, yes, in the beginning. And so was I. But as I started working, I got to actually get to talk with patients and hear their stories. It was definitely fascinating, and I made the right choice.
Jen, do you have a moment where your parents were just like, or anybody in your life?
I think like for me, my parents knew that the retail pharmacy setting wasn't really fulfilling anymore. So they were, knew that I was ready to kind of jump ship and do something else. And I think they still can't fully wrap their head around, what I do. And when they tell other family members and then, I see them at a holiday, they're like, so here you work at a dispensary now. And I'm like, yeah, like this is what I do. This is how it works. And there's always a lot of follow-up questions.
You got to explain this every year now. Right. Every single holiday, there's a new family member that's got to come and ask the questions.
Right. And then everyone's listening. So I kind of take the spotlight for a little bit there.
Mike, do you have a coming out story? A cannabis coming out story?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think last episode I kind of talked about my dad.
Yeah.
But what I failed to tell you is that I grew up under the tyrannical rule of two older sisters.
Okay.
Which is difficult. I don't recommend it. They're both nurses. They're both very highly educated, and they're both extremely skeptical of medical marijuana. So there's kind of a constant friction there. But the more they see of
what was their reaction when you first told them this is what you were going to do? Hey, I'm not doing retail pharmacy anymore. I'm changing my life, and I'm going to go be the general manager of a medical marijuana dispensary.
Extreme skepticism, and of course the classical answer from my doctorate of nursing older sister, I just don't think we know enough about it yet. And of course my question is, well, there was a time we didn't know very much about type 2 diabetes.
It's true. That's a great
there was a time we didn't know much about congestive heart failure.
Is that your mic drop moment? You walked away?
That kind of is. So, I think I kind of touched on this. We're all scientists. If you're in medical care, you're a scientist at heart, and we seek answers.
Right.
And this is definitely, as it is for patients, a journey. So it is for us as operators, also a journey.
Yeah. To some degree, your sister's totally right there. We just don't know enough about this drug yet. And it's hard to get it federally studied for so many reasons. Yeah. But yeah, it's something we're learning more about every day. And we get to learn it on the ground floor, which is pretty incredible. And our family still let us be here, which is really awesome.
like we've said, it's always funny that some people are a little still apprehensive about us making the transition into the cannabis industry, but if they're holed up on it, it's okay. They'll come around because we know we get to help as many people a day as we do here at the Healing Center, and we pride ourselves on that. We as an industry get to do that, and it's an absolute honor and a privilege to be able to help everybody in the Pittsburgh community. And we take this very seriously, but not every single moment has to be serious, right? So we always made it a habit to ask our guests coming into the studio with us for the Healing Hearts podcast, if you were going to be a cannabis strain, what strain would that be? So we're going to get some of those answers from our co-founders, Chris Cohan and Jay Richards, some of our medical professionals who we have on staff, and some of our representatives from some of our grower processors, which we receive products from. We're going to talk about those coming up next.
Hi, I'm Jill Zimbicki, pharmacist at the Healing Center.
Hi, I'm Michael Butler, lead pharmacist, general manager with the Healing Center.
Hi, my name is Allie. I'm the dispensary manager at the Marnovo location.
Hi, my name is Jen. I'm the dispensary manager at the Healing Center in Cranberry, PA.
Thank you so much for listening to our Healing Hearts podcast.
Welcome back to the Healing Hearts podcast special edition. We're recapping some of the answers we had from all of our guests of this first season of the podcast, if you will. So we asked almost everybody who came in, if you were going to be a cannabis strain, which one would you be? I'll tell you mine right now. 707 headband, absolutely one of my favorites. Indica dominant hybrid, it's because it's serious. You can still function on it, but it's very relaxing. It kind of feels like it describes my personality. At least I hope. But we're going to get that answer from not only from our co-founders, Chris Cohan and Jay Richards, but some of our medical professionals and representatives from some of the grower processors that were fortunate enough to carry product at the Healing Center.
So let's turn the vibe for a moment. As we're wrapping up here on our first episode of the Healing Hearts podcast. So this question was submitted from an outside guest. What strain of marijuana, if you had to be a strain of marijuana, would you be?
If I had to be a strain of marijuana, I would. Can I pick two?
I mean,
we could cross them for you.
I'm not. Yeah, right.
Somebody will breed that.
I'm not quite the connoisseur, but I like Jack Herer.
Okay, nice and
Girl Scout cookies. So
nice.
Always liked that from the time I tried that a few years ago, and it's a nice steady flow. So it helps. I have some pain issues and some sleep issues, so it helps tremendously.
It's incredible.
Yeah. I'm an indica guy, so it's going to be purple in nature. So probably something grape. So like grape god bud, maybe.
Grape god bud.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's got. For my ego too, probably most people would probably say that fits me.
You didn't hear that from me, Mike. Wink, wink. We've known each other a long time.
You guys are doing it. I only have one more thing for you guys. Our lightning round question. We're going to ask this every week. If you were going to be a strain, what strain would you be?
You go first, Jill.
Well, I would have to say there's actually a strain called Jilly Bean. It's not grown in Pennsylvania, but that was actually my nickname growing up. That's what my dad would call me, Jilly Bean. So I would have to say that one.
It's very serendipitous. Yeah, now that you work here, Mr. Butler.
I would think, and this is only since the introduction of anxiety as a medical condition, as an approved medical condition in PA, pre-98 Bubba Kush.
Okay.
Pre-98 Bubba Kush is a 1-to-1 form. It's 1 part THC, 1 part CBD. And I have an incredible amount of positive feedback from anxiety and PTSD patients specifically about how much this drug helps them get through every day without making them feel like they're high at all.
Yeah.
So it's very non-psychoactive, but incredibly effective at decreasing anxiety and PTSD symptoms.
And as our general manager, you make sure we get through every day so it's fully appropriate.
Thanks.
One question for you. If you were going to be a strain of cannabis, what strain would you be? Allie?
I will go with BioJesus. It's a heavy indica, but a lot of my patients come for pain and insomnia issues, and it seems to really help them. So that's definitely a common.
A lot of good feedback on that one.
Yes, definitely.
That's awesome. And Jen, what strain would you be?
I would have to say Girl Scout cookies. It's a nice balanced hybrid, and I was a Girl Scout myself, Troop 1173. So if anyone's listening.
Mr. Butler, if you were going to be a strain, I think you answered this one before, but maybe it changes week to week.
It might change. I mean, Jack Hare.
That's your go-to?
Yeah. I think I would be Jack Hare.
Okay.
He gave us a perfect segue into your next question, didn't he? if he could be one of his cannabis strains. Yeah.
In your ever-expanding library there,
yes,
Gabe.
Yeah. It's a fun question we ask everybody. If you could be one of your strains, which one would you be?
Hazes are really uplifting and energetic and creative. Being that sativa as well, it's a great terpene profile with kind of the piney lemon pine salt kind of flavor to it. If we're growing even one tray of super lemon haze in a room, all you smell is super lemon haze.
You could be one of your strains, right? Which one represents Mike Bogniak the best?
Pineapple Express.
Okay.
All right.
You just said that very definitively.
Yeah. What's behind that, Mike?
That didn't take much chewing on.
Nah.
I think that provides the the energy, right? It's that train. Right. It's that drive. It's that.
Well, it's legendary. It's got a movie, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. One last thing for you today, because we've talked a lot about strains, right, and different
my
things.
favorite question.
Yes, so we told you we'd be asking you a question, yes, and that's if you were could be one of your strains, the one you identify most with, I guess. Which one would you be?
Cherry Diesel.
Ooh. No.
Because I'm a little bit sweet and not always sweet.
A little bit sour too.
Nice balance. Cherry and diesel. Yeah.
That's a great answer.
Very good. Very good choice.
And now you know what strains we would be. It's the Healing Hearts Podcast special edition, recapping our first season. And thank you so much for listening to every single episode that you did. We had an absolute blast recording this at Boyd Park University, and we look forward to informing you even more and bringing you even more into the Healing Center family as we continue to grow as not only a business that's able to help this Pittsburgh community, but as an industry as a whole. And we look forward to you being a part of it. If you have questions about this podcast or the Healing Center in general, thehealingcenterusa.com. That's all spelled out. Thehealingcenterusa.com. Thank you again so much for listening to the Healing Hearts Podcast.
Healing Hearts is presented by the Healing Center, voted Pittsburgh's best dispensary. Healing Hearts is recorded at the Center for Media Innovation at Point Park University. More information is available at thehealingcenterusa.com.